Good morning, good afternoon, good wherever you are joining us from. Welcome to Process Rules Camp. My name is Lindsay John. I'm the head of customer success here at Superd, and I will be walking you through today's training. Now, a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. First off, there is a public chat. Go ahead and utilize it. Go ahead right now, drop in what your name is, where you're from. As I go through this training, feel free to drop questions in there, and I will pause and answer them. We will have some Q&A at the end, but feel free to ask as we go along. In today's training, we will be doing a use case walkthrough, and then we will be working together and building our own process rules on the call. So if you haven't already, go ahead and sign into Superd, and we will get rolling. A couple things to note just about this platform. We use a platform called Contrast, which we absolutely adore. However, there is about a 10-second delay between what I say and when it reaches your ears. So in the case of asking questions in the chat, if I don't get to it right away, just wait for a second and just know that there's going to be that little lapse in time. So without further ado, you will get this recording after we wrap up. It'll come straight to your mailbox. If you haven't already, register for Superd 101 and Package Builder. And coming soon, and we'll actually be doing a training on action plans. Okay, so all the fun things in Superd land. Now, let's dig in. First off, before I start sharing my screen, what is a process rule? Process rule is the ability to flag any data inaccuracies or validation, either positive, negative, or warning. This ability to flag on any custom object inside of HubSpot, including tickets, deals, contacts, companies, and the own custom objects that you have. Now, what does that mean? That means simply this. These are process rules. Like I said, they're the ability to flag anything that you want your team or your clients to know about what is happening inside that deal. So you could be serving best next steps. You could be serving more information. You could be serving even something as simple as you're missing all of this information. We will be walking through all of these together, but process rules are a powerful tool that you can use to make sure that your team are following your teams, clients are following the steps and processes you've put in place to make sure that your CRM data is clean. My ongoing joke is that a CRM is the most expensive tool in your tool stack. And it's not just because of how much it costs, but because of the decisions that your teams are making off of the data in there. So we want to make sure the data is clean. So as you can see here, I have my deal. In this scenario, I'm a sales rep, right? I'm trying to get that money. I'm trying to close them deals. I often forget what my HubSpot admin has told me to do. Guilty. Take me to jail. It's fine. I'm not the only one on my team because as a sales rep, my number one priority is to close deals. It's not to follow process. However, my HubSpot admin wants me to follow process. So process rules are where we meet right in the middle. It's the ability to actually make sure that all the SOPs that my HubSpot admin has spent multiple hours training me on are followed properly. So I had this test deal. I'm quite proud of it. A whole $3 coming in that MER. And there's a couple things that I am missing. Whoops. So as I go through and I'm cleaning up my deals, here's the thing and information that I need to fill out. Okay, so as we go through this, process rules are dynamic. So as I update all this stuff, I am one, making my HubSpot admin happy, and two, they'll update automatically. So this first one, who is the competition on this deal? Right, we follow MedPick here at XYZ University, which means that I should have all this information on the left-hand side so that we can properly identify who our ICP is and how to go after them in the future. Okay. My HubSpot admin, whoever made this process rule, is letting me know that it's empty and I need to fill it out. Okay. I am new. I forget what competition often is. And so thank you, HubSpot admin. They've also added in more information to understand what my competition is. Okay. Now, my HubSpot admin loves me so much that they've also created a process rule that has discovery questions about competition. So if I'm feeling uncomfortable on how to get that information, they've actually provided me best next steps and guided selling so that I can very comfortably answer that question. Okay. Now, I just forgot to fill it out. Whoops, that's on me. It's really cool. There's actually no competitors in this deal. We're the only ones. Although my HubSpot admin is going to come back and tell me that's not true, but that's okay. There's no competitors, so I'm going to save that. Okay. All right, so that cleared out two things. So with two process rules, I was able to eliminate, as a HubSpot admin, back and forth information of, hey, you need to fill this out. Where's that sheet with the questions, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I do have a sick toddler at home. He's knocking on my door. So if he comes in, I do apologize to everyone on this call. That is the fun upside of remote work. Okay. As I'm seeing and looking at this deal, a couple more things. Okay, my close date is in the past. I'm going to update that because you're right. It's the 20th. This is not closing on the 12th, and I'm probably messing up reports. Okay, I'm going to save that. Now, I have cleaned up all the information on the deal itself. And this is where process rules get really fun. Because if you've noticed, the process rules I've already filled out are for properties that are connected to the deal I'm looking on. But now, if you read, you'll start to see that these three things are actually dealing with associated objects. Now, this is where process rules get really, really fun, is the fact that I can actually do any of the data validation, logic validation to make these serve. I can do it for cross objects, which means if you have teams that are primarily working in deals or primarily working in tickets, but you have things that they need to fill out or look at on other objects, you can now flag that where they're working so that you eliminate the headache and the heartache of having them pull out an SOP every single time they need to get something done. Okay, so let's look at these. Okay, so the first error, there's no associated contact. You're right. Who have I been talking to this entire time? Let's go ahead. Let's add in our good old Brian Halligan. Next. Boom. Okay. You'll notice, and now my one error of your associated contact has cleared, but it also has given me another error. This is saying my associated contact is missing a lead status. So what Superit is doing, what these process rules are doing, are looking at the associated object and looking at the properties of the associated object to let me know that I'm missing information that is needed for this deal. Okay. So this is saying your contact associate is missing. I'm going to go ahead, come in here. I'm going to fill out because that's what I was told to do. Okay. Let me go back to my test deal. And that is cleared. Now, my discounting is too high and it'll not be approved by accounting. This one is a little personal, right? I know that as a sales rep, if it has to be approved by accounting or has to go to accounting, it's going to slow down my deal. And I know that if it's too high, it's not going to be approved at all, which means that this deal is dead in the water. So I have a couple things I can do. One, it's an honest mistake. I just didn't realize it. I'm going to click on more information. It's actually going to give me a guide. Now, a guide is a super feature. We will go over it in Super 101. But essentially, it's going to guide me to how I can update this. So it's going to bring me to the deal. It's going to scroll me down when it decides to load all the way to line items. It's going to tell me to edit it here. Okay. It's going to tell me to click on the discount amount. It's telling me to type in 30%. That must be our discount parameters. Okay. Type it in. It's telling me to save. It's telling me to update that deal amount. Fantastic. I ended the tour. We're good to go. We go back to deal. And now the only thing I have left is I didn't fill out my playbook. Oof. Again, another associated object. We're looking over down here at this playbook. Okay. So maybe part of my process is that this is, ready to close. There's a self-serve handoff, whatever. So I'm going to make sure I fill this out. No competitors and log note. Okay. And as it refreshes, it's cleared out that error. Okay. So in the 9 minutes that we've been on this call together, I, as a sales rep, has gone through and cleaned up this entire deal. In 9 minutes, I did all of that, which previously would have taken probably about 20 to 25 minutes and a lot of back and forth with the HubSpot admin if the admin was available, or it was your sales rep digging through multiple SOPs, trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on. In 9 minutes, I was able to clean this deal from discount parameters to associated contact information to our med pick, let's see, finance, sales manager, and marketing, your sales enablement team. I was able to clean up this deal so that 4 or 5 teams had all the clean information that they needed to make better decisions. Okay? So why process rules are simple, you look at them, they're simple. They are so powerful for your company and all the teams that are working in your CRM to make sure that they are getting the data and the information they need so that their teams can make the best decisions. It's wild. Okay. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to sip some water. Are there any questions? And go ahead and pop them in the chat. Or if you're following along, give me a thumbs up emoji. And this is this awkward break I was talking about where it's about 10 seconds delayed. Okay, we look like we are good to go. Okay. In this next version of training, now that we've seen everything in practice, right? You can see how powerful they are. You can see some use cases that we've had. In that 9 minutes, we ran through 7 different use cases right off the top of our heads. There's a lot that you can do, okay? This next section, we're actually gonna walk through and we're gonna create a process rule together, okay? And these happen in the back end of Supered. Okay, so if you log into your Supered account, the first thing before we set up and to make these, we're going to go to our connections here. And we are going to make sure we are connected to HubSpot first off. We're also going to make sure that we have this process enforcement enabled. Yes. Okay. Supered is a Chrome extension, and 90% of all of our Supered features are delivered via the Chrome extension. Okay. Process rules are no exception. They do require this additional step of connecting with the right HubSpot account, so that we are pulling over the schema so that we can have this data validation flag. Lots of words. We'll show you in processes we're building. But on this page, we just want to make sure that we are connected to whatever HubSpot account you want your rules to show in, and that this process enforcement is a yes. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you are good to go. Okay. Okay. All right. We are going to move into building these out. So in the back end of Supered, go ahead and click on processes. Okay. Again, it will tell you what HubSpot account you are connected to. This is where they're going to flag. Okay. If you want them to flag at a different account, say you're a Supered partner and you're connected to a demo account, and you want them to flag in your account, go ahead and switch that now. But let's go ahead and let's create a rule. Okay. On this basics page, this is where we're going to build everything that you saw. Okay. The HubSpot object is where the rule is going to flag. So in the example we used, we were in deals. So all those rules were flagging on deals. They can flag on companies, contacts, tickets. And then again, if you have any custom objects, they will flag there as well. Okay. Now, what type of rule? Standard rules that we have, this is the ones that Supered gives you, are error, which are red, warning, which are yellow, and positive, which are green. Now, you do have the ability to make custom colored ones with custom names. So for example, if you want to say, hey, there's an SOP attached to this, you can make a specific color and call it an SOP. Okay, the name is internal. This is just for your organization. So we're going to call this today's the 20th, 11/20. And then you have this display title. Now, the display title looks and feels like a deal tag. So if we go back into our HubSpot account, you'll see that we have a couple things flagging over here. Okay, so these are actually process rules. Even though they look like deal tags, they're process rules. The display title is optional. So you can see if we put a display title in, it shows like this. Okay, it's telling me there's a close date error. If you choose not to add in a display title, they'll aggregate together like this to see if there's 1 warning, there's 2 warnings, there's 3 warnings, 8 and 9. Okay. Do what you choose, what you feel like doing. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to keep it empty for now. Okay. The rule text is what you'll see written across the top. Okay. When we start to talk about process rules, there are almost like 3 layers of how you can present information. Okay. And we'll see all of them like this. The first layer is simply the rule text, which is just this right here. Your close date is in the past, please update it. Okay. So for this, we'll say something similar, right? Your close date is today. Congrats. Okay. Now, the next layer up is that you have a rule text, and then you add in a card for additional context. A card is a Supered feature. It is a container of your content. Again, we go over that in Supered 101. That layer or that structure looks like this one, where you have the rule text and then the attached card, which says, it's more information as a pop out. Okay. Now the last layer, okay, so if we attach a card, okay, the last layer is actually the ability to embed a card in the page. Okay, and it looks like this. This right here is a super card. It's a lot of information. Super cards can have videos, they can have iframes, they can have text and links and a bunch of stuff. And so this top layer is you're actually able to embed that card, and so that information is right at fingertips. So if, for example, if my competition was XYZ Porter replicator or cool KBs, and we know that there's a certain process that we need to follow when that person's in play, we can have a card that has an embedded mural board or a lucid chart or ClickUp to make sure that we're following those exact steps for that client. Okay. To do that, you'll actually go to the design page and you'll display this card page. Okay. So across the top, we've got basics. This is how you're putting your rule together, the building blocks. Design is whether or not you want to embed it in the page. Audience. Now, audience is a specific feature or audience is a thing that you can do for each specific supered feature. It is determining whether or not you want process rules to show for everyone in your supered account or for specific users, or if you have pro functionality, assigned groups. Basically saying if I have one troublemaker that refuses to follow the rules, I can make a whole set of process rules just for them, and the rest of my team doesn't have to get impacted by it. Or if you have groups, you can have one group of SDRs, since they're responsible for XYZ data on a deal, and then you can have one for AEs, have one for sales managers, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now the logic, this is how we are going to build the logic, and when the logic matches, that is when our process rule will show up. Okay. There's a little cheat on the right-hand side. You can grab the object ID of whatever you are building, and you can test against it. Okay. So there's no logic. So all three of these deals right now are going to flag. Okay. Now on the logic itself, across the top, you have three options. The first one, filter. This actually ties back to whatever HubSpot object we've originally chosen. Filter just means it's going to bring over all of the properties that this particular deal has, including custom properties. Okay. So in this particular situation, I'm just going to do close date. Okay. Close date. There we go. And it's going to give me the option of is more than 5 days, is more than from now, is less than, is known, is unknown. So essentially the logicking will reflect your property type and your property options. So one question I often get, does it bring over my dropdown? And yes, it does. So in competition, is any of, right? Is any of, is none of, is equals. And then if you do the dropdown, it's actually brought over all of the options I have inside that property type. So when we connected your HubSpot account at the beginning, we were bringing over all the schema. So, and this allows for your process rules to be very, very specific and very granular. So if you have a very intense process, you can build out a process rule that matches that logic exactly. Okay. So for this one, we're going to do close date. And it's more than, let's say, like 1 day ago. Okay, update filter. So it looks like this one would not match, but these two will. Okay. You also have your grouping function. Okay. That is if you need like A and B or C to be true, you can build out a group. Okay. The last one is association. Now this is where we start to do our cross-object association. If you remember back in my example, I had a bunch of logic and a bunch of rules that were flagging because associated objects were inaccurate. Okay. This is where you build that. So when I click on association, it's going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, there's at least one matching, or you can say no matching or all matching. And that's going to drop down all of the HubSpot objects. I like to call them both primary and secondary objects. But you can start to see, okay, so we have our primary object, company, deal, lead, ticket, but then it has call, communications, emails, line items, meetings, notes, products, quotes, tasks. So you can get very, very granular on what you're serving to your team so that your processes are followed exactly. So for example, there's at least one matching note where the note body, right, contains any of sales to service. update that. Okay. One of these is flagging because sales to service was my playbook I needed. These two are not. So if I were to go back in here, these two, they don't have that playbook filled out. Okay. So process rules are powerful. They can get very specific. They can get very, very robust with the information you're serving, and they are dynamic to a T. So you could have it so every single step of your process matches some data filtering, and so that you are easily guiding your team through the steps that you've taken. Okay. No longer are you using SOPs or people getting lost and they asking for clarification. Now your team is going to be fully equipped to use the CRM to its highest value. We have a customer here at Superd whose quote is my favorite. He's like, I want my sales reps to know what to do now and to know what to do next. And that's it. Anything above that is chaos. Okay. So I'm going to pause. Any questions? Okay. I am going to throw the link to our Super Jam in the chat. That is our community of where you can go to ask questions, to get more help. Let me go grab that really quickly. There are specific channels and for each of our features, so including process rules. So as you build them out, if you need help with logicking filters or anything like that, you can go ahead and throw it in the Ask Process Rules section. This is also where you can come to join with other Superd users to kind of ask best practices. How would you do this, etc. Together we're stronger. I can tell you a bunch of use cases, but it's really helpful when you start to be around people who are maybe following the same process or having the same issues. Okay. I will stick around if there are any additional questions, but if not, go forth and build some rules. Okay. Thank you all and have a fabulous day.